Welcome to the Stock Market Daily News podcast for Friday, March 1st, 2026. I'm your host, and today we're running down the latest headlines and movers from yesterday's session. The major indexes closed mixed. The S&P 500 finished fractionally lower. The Dow Jones edged up less than 0.1%, while the Nasdaq slipped about 0.25% as investors weighed tech underperformance against defensive sectors. But the biggest story is Bitcoin's prolonged losing streak, its worst run since 2018. We'll also cover fresh earnings from Hormel Foods, a strategic update from Crescent Energy, and what shifting commodity prices mean for your portfolio. Let's jump in. First, Bitcoin is making headlines with a fifth consecutive monthly decline, its worst losing streak in nearly 8 years. Bitcoin wrapped up February near $64,000, down nearly 20% for the month, and is now trading about 50% below last year's peak. Analysts point to nearly $4 billion in ETF outflows over the past 5 weeks, a sharp drop in risk appetite and macro headwinds like a stronger dollar and rising oil prices. Notably, while U.S. equities held steady, Bitcoin diverged, rattling its usual correlation with stocks. For investors, this break points to structural shifts in how crypto assets are being valued and warns the correction may not be over. Turning to corporate earnings, Hormel Foods posted what it called a solid start to fiscal 2026. The food giant reported net sales just over $3 billion, up 2% organically. While food service and international sales were strong, retail sales dipped due partly to Hormel's exit from private label nut items. Adjusted earnings per share landed at 34 cents, matching expectations, but profit margins remained under pressure from continued commodity inflation and higher than expected freight cost. Hormel reaffirmed its full-year guidance and announced a divestiture of its whole bird turkey business, moves aimed at sharpening focus on value-added protein products. Energy stocks also caught traders' attention, with Crescent Energy reporting a transformational year. Crescent completed nearly $5 billion in asset transactions, honing in on the Eagle Ford, Permian, and Uinta basins. Q4 production came in at 268,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day, with free cash flow around $239 million. The company doubled its annual synergy target to about $190 million, launched a dedicated minerals platform, and boosted shareholder returns with a 5% dividend yield plus a $400 million buyback authorization. Investors will be watching how the company leverages these moves to unlock equity value. On the commodities front, beef and pork prices remain elevated, keeping pressure on food manufacturers like Hormel. Rising freight rates, driven by tight capacity and winter weather, are another headache, factors to watch for companies with slim profit margins. While some improvement is expected in pork costs later this year, beef and nut prices are likely to stay high, a reminder for investors to scrutinize input cost trends when assessing consumer staples stocks. Lastly, keep an eye on shifting correlations. Bitcoin's sharp drop, even as U.S. equities hold up, suggests investor sentiment is becoming more selective. Geopolitical tensions and anticipation of the next Fed policy move continue to steer risk appetite. That's your market briefing for March 1st. Quick recap. The S&P 500 finished fractionally lower, Dow Jones barely up, Nasdaq down 0.25%, and Bitcoin extended a historic losing run. The dominant themes: tech underperformance, sticky commodity prices, and investors shifting between risk assets and defensive plays. Looking ahead, watch for next week's critical jobs report and more earnings from major retailers. Stay tuned for daily updates, subscribe for the latest market intelligence, and visit our website for deep dives and analysis. Thanks for listening to Stock Market Daily News.